BC is introducing new legislation to ban illicit drug use in many public places. The province says the restrictions would look like the ones in place for tobacco, alcohol, and cannabis use. CBC's Sarah Galashan is in our Vancouver newsroom with more on this. So, Sarah, the Premier spoke about all of that last hour.
Yeah, Hillary, and I know you were listening in, but let me recap here, because the bottom line is that in British Columbia, under this new act that they're introducing now, you will not be able to do hard drugs, so heroin, crack. You can't do them in public parks, beaches, sports fields, 6 meters from a bus stop or building entrance, and that's in addition to also not being allowed to do them in playgrounds, spray and wading pools, and at skate parks. And as you point out, this is in line with smoking and alcohol use regulations, but it was initially not something that was thought to be deemed necessary to introduce when the decriminalization was announced. It went into effect back in end of January 2023 this year. It was announced that it was coming even sooner than that, and there was much discussion about this. This decriminalization does not make doing or using hard drugs legal, but what it means is that for adults who are in possession of a small amount, 2.5 grams, for their own personal use, they won't be arrested, they won't have the drugs seized, and instead, when police if there is an exchange with police, they will instead be offered information about services or help trying to get services to do with addiction use. That was brought into place, that decriminalization, to try and eliminate fear and stigma on the part of people who are suffering from addiction, because the overdose situation in British Columbia since the crisis was announced back in 2016 has claimed more than 12,000 lives. And so the hope was, by taking away the fear and stigma, that this would save lives and people would be able to use not in their own homes by themselves, because that can often lead to overdose, and as well that they would feel more confident and more comfortable seeking treatment for that addiction. What has happened here, what we heard from the Premier, is that in decriminalizing this, there have been now subsequently many complaints coming from municipalities that members of the public are seeing a lot of this hard drug use in areas that have been public and areas that are sometimes designated for children to use, or are popular with children to use, obviously, and that they're feeling a little unsafe. And so this was the message from Premier David Eby.
Our compassion, our understanding that that system doesn't work to address addiction issues does not mean that we need to tolerate public drug use in our communities, especially in areas used by kids, playgrounds, parks.
So the Public Use Drug Act equals essentially standardized rules that we put in place, and it gives police, he said, the tools to redirect someone who might be using hard drugs in one of these places to instead go to a place that would be more appropriate, particularly when they are available or when there isn't a location, a government-funded safe injection or safe drug use site. Hillary?
Sarah, what's been the reaction to this so far?
Well, this was anticipated, particularly by VANDU, which is the Vancouver area network of drug users. And so actually yesterday, they addressed what was coming, or what they assumed was coming, in a press conference that they held in a park. And let me play you what they said.
We have a lot of parents here, family people. Do you love your kids?
Yeah.
Of course. Do we love all kids and families?
Yeah.
And for the government, again, during a toxic drug poisoning crisis in its 7th year, to be backtracking on its own policies to save lives and using language that demonizes our community, that further entrenches us in stigma, this will kill people. And we have to fight back. Is that right, folks?
Yeah.
Now, the Premier did make the point as well that this is this being introduced is really about compliance rather than enforcement, and that the police will be asking people to go somewhere else. They will start with a request for someone to leave, and that it will be at the discretion of the police who are involved in any of these situations to then proceed, make their decisions as they would move forward in terms of enforcing it. The Premier did say this is about finding a balance and making sure that people feel safe in parks, but also trying to alleviate that stigma and fear. Questions and concerns that are raised about this, though, is that if a park, a special park or a certain park is used by drug users, commonly, then if they are forced to go somewhere else, might they be forced to go indoors? And we know, as I pointed out earlier, Hillary, that going indoors with the opioid crisis as it is and the number of overdoses that we are seeing, that's a very unsafe situation, because if you are alone and indoors, there is no one there to assist in the event that there is an overdose.